Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. It's the best I know how. Give me a break. So today we're going to finish off our discussion on a ton of short stories I told you I had not much to say about, but lied and actually have a lot to say about, obviously. The next one is called, it's written by Rich Hedden, it's called 3 Against the Galaxy. Now, this was from Star Wars Tales number 3, and it has Aristia, Grissom, and Tech the Jawa. And it's them versus the galaxy. And an all-out battle to the... No, it's nothing like that. It's basically just 3 of them that band together, they become friends, they're strangers, they band together, and they form this awesome team that can just fight off the Empire whenever they want, or whoever comes their way. Think of this as the A-Team in space. Arista is a humanoid female. She's the brains of the operation. Grissom is a cage-fighting Gamorrean, so he's the muscle. And then you have Tech the Jawa, or Teek, however you pronounce it, T-E-K, I think is how you spell his name. But he is, of course, the tech guy, right? Tech, the Tech Jawa. Yeah, I can see that being that stupid in Star Wars Tales. But anyway, the 3 of them together, band, strangers band together and fight off the dangers. And it seems like this was maybe a springboard to create tons of tales starring these 3. And this is the only tale we ever see them in, which I think is kind of hilarious. It did remind me. It's not too bad of a story because it reminded me of old school Westing Games stories. Westing Games all the time was doing things like this, like pairing these people together and then giving you their stats afterwards, and you can come up with their adventures, and they give you ideas of what type of adventures they would have. It felt very much, this tale especially felt very much like that. In fact, I honestly thought after reading Star Wars Tales 3 that, these are going to be main characters. We're going to read about them in future issues. They're always going to do like a little short blurb of the 3 Against the Galaxy and what they've been up to, and you never saw them again. I guess it was a idea that just went away, or maybe he just didn't get any other scripts approved. But they're interesting characters. Like I said, there's potential there. I can see all that, but I can definitely see this being in like an adventure journal or Star Wars RPG where they kind of tell you exactly this. They give you a brief adventure of them and say, okay, here, you go ahead and take their adventures even further. And unfortunately, Rich Hedden said, okay, I'll do it. And he did one, little tale story. Boo. The next short story is called Sam Blasted. It comes from Star Wars Tales 4. It is written by Killian Plinkett. That's his name, Plinkett. Anyway, in this story, basically Vader's testing out the Dark Trooper project, and he has a envoy of Dark Troopers on this ship that through some malfunction, has a hyperdrive malfunction, gets lost in space. Well, it ends up being crashed on Tatooine, unknown to Vader. Now, this all takes place in the past, and then it flash forwards 3 years later. So this is after the death of Jabba, again starring Big Jizz and Spike. Now, I'm unsure whether the Jabba tape has happened yet, but I'm going to go ahead and assume it has, because I think the Jabba tape would have happened earlier because the mad dash of trying to carve out, Jabba's kingdom. I think Big Jizz and Spike would have struck right then. So, even though nothing's mentioned of that story, obviously, but they're kind of roaming around the desert, and of course they encounter the Dark Troopers. Now, is this a fantastic tale? No, but I did enjoy it because I like Dark Troopers. We don't get to see Dark Troopers that much. Dark Troopers are really cool. Depends on what phase they're in, but there's different, tiers in the Dark Trooper thing, and we didn't get to see much of it. And I thought it was a really cool idea to have Dark Troopers in this, and then they kind of just didn't use them as well. The last short story I want to talk about comes from the Star Wars Gamer number 10. It was written by Timothy Zahn. It's called Handoff. Now, in this short story, Mara encounters Ghent on the planet Chibius. And of course, this is kind of Ghent's origin. If you don't know who Ghent is, he's going to be kind of a big side character in the Heir to Empire trilogy. Ghent was one of my favorite characters, and I think my brother's favorite character, and Heir to the Empire. He loved Ghent. He wanted to see more of Ghent, and the only thing we saw was little guest star appearances in the novels, if that. He hardly got mentioned again. I mean, Talon Card got tons of adventures, Mara Jade got tons of adventures, and Ghent, the Slicer, who I think is just as interesting, maybe even more than Talon, but he didn't get much love. Well, here he gets his own little short story, kind of an origin. Dave Dorman did the art, so it just looks unbelievably good, and I love this story. I love a lot of the stories from Star Wars Gamer. Star Wars Gamer was really good with their short stories. Most of the time they had just what I thought were decent stories that were well worth my time reading, and this was one, especially when I saw it was Ghent. Now remember, I was reading it, and I don't think my brother was reading the magazines. He was reading the books, and that was it. He wouldn't read the comic books or anything. But when I showed him the Star Wars Gamer issue, I said, hey man, you need to read this, there's a Ghent story, and he was like, oh really? And I remember he read that one and loved it. So Ghent, again, an underutilized character from Timothy Zahn and the expanded universe in general that I thought was very cool. But he does have his own little short story here where Mara kind of helps him out, and then later on it ends with Ghent hooking up with Talon Card. Mara is not there at the time, so that story is not told in the Star Wars Gamer. This is Ghent's story, just Mara Jade and Talon Card are in it. All right, but is it worth your time? Absolutely, absolutely. If you like the Heir to the Empire trilogy and you enjoyed Ghent the Slicer as I did, you definitely want to check out the Star Wars Gamer 10. All right, folks, that's it for now. See you next time with another video.